The new users, we're going to take the funds we're getting from the new users and apply it towards infrastructure. Pretty simple. But we don't know what we're getting from the new users, so we can't put in a budget that this is what we're going to allocate for fixing the I&I until we have the money. We're in negotiations now. That money's going to go towards I&I based upon the study that Kyle was talking about.
And adding a couple $100,000 to the I&I problem that's already coming up in the streets not going to bother anything. And just two different points of view.
Yeah, I guess it is. That's what makes the world go round.
Yep.
Thank you. Yes, Greg.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, on page 5, on the expenditure side, the bans for Salesian, the improvements, third line from the bottom. We've been averaging $100,000 every year. This year was 105 for 2010, and then we jumped to 150. Are we accelerating the ban?
No, we're paying it off. Is that right, Joe?
That's the final payment?
We have $200,000 left and we're paying $150. We'll just have $50,000 left to pay off.
We're paying more of it off than last year.
So that will leave us $50,000 left on it?
Yes.
No, 10 sounds different there. All right. Will there be like a substantial cost savings on that acceleration?
When you pay
By paying the extra $50,000 in this current budget year, will there be a...
Will we save in interest?
In interest, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Any idea of what it would be?
It's about $3,000 we'll save.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Hey, John.
And Board, I've been a village resident now for...
Okay. Your name and address, Kevin.
Kevin Fry, 20 Prospect Avenue, Goshen. I've been a village resident now for close to 40 years. And I find it a shame that at this point, the town and the village board are willing to knock off $25,000 apiece for the budget for the youth in this village and the town. You know, somewhere along the line, you know, somebody, you know what, I understand that the town is knocking it down, so if everybody keeps on knocking it down, what stops them from knocking it down again next year? You knocking it down again. We're going to have nothing. Right now, the school board is doing a budget right now, which they're knocking out modified sport programs for the kids. What are we going to do for the kids if everybody keeps on knocking things down? Somewhere, somebody's got to stand up and say, you know what? Let's do something for the kids. I mean, to knock $25,000 off, you're paying extra money to pay off Salesian. Whole different story. I don't want to get into that. But instead of putting the money into that, keep the money that's in the budget that we had last year and put it towards the kids. Put it towards the parks. That's all I'm asking you guys to consider.
Thank you, Kevin. Anybody else want to comment on the budget? Oh.
My name is Mark Lingerman, 74 South Street. I would agree it doesn't make sense to save $3,000 to pay $50,000 off and then cut the joint rec. And then as the high school and the schools cut sports, they're going to cut all the youth sports. That's a difficult sell. It is frustrating also to hear over and over again that the town and the village can't get along well enough to work some of this stuff out. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor and Board, let's see, on page 1, down near the bottom, your interfund revenues, $181,000. What is that?
Where are you at?
Pardon?
Which line item? Which line?
2801.
Page 1.
Page 1. General. Interfund revenues?
Yeah. That's from the DPW and the
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
The sewer fund and the water fund pay the general fund because there is a lot of work that the DPW does and clerical work and also the DPW does that they don't get charged for, the water and sewer, so they have to pay it back. It's in there every year. It's been in there for...
I mean, how do they arrive at it? department is doing something, how do they arrive at what they're going to compensate another department? Is there-
That's because the general fund is, they're sort of like, they stand alone.
But is there a formula as far as how they compensate one another?
There is, that was generated a long time ago, and I guess it might be revisited, but it has been in effect for maybe 30 years or so.
Was this something that this whole fund, I mean, will 181,000 will be consumed in the 12-month period?
It's just a payback for salaries and everything else that,
I mean, is this an area where there ends up a considerable amount left at the end of the year? That's like a sort of slush fund?
no, this is just, it's part of the revenue. It's not a slush fund, it's part of
I understand
revenue.
it's part of the revenue, I'm just trying to understand how you arrive at the number. It seems a little vague, that's all.
Well, I don't know if she has the numbers, Brent. I think what happens is you allocate, let's say somebody works for the DPW, they get a salary of $40,000 a year, you allocate, they spend 10% of their time, either at the water plant, the sewer plant, so you take 10% out of those funds and it helps pay their salary.
Well, are there actual figures to substantiate something, or is it a guess?
Michael has the figures.
He does?
Yes.
Okay. We have two interfund there, one's a transfer, one's a revenue. The bottom line on that, page one.
The transfer, the interfund transfer is from the, in lieu of parkland, and that's, we have money in there, that pays for the Salesian bond. In other words, taxes aren't raised, taxes only raised on 50,000 of this bond, that we're paying off 150. We're transferring 100,000 from the in lieu of parkland to pay for that. That's what the transfer is from.
The interfund transfer is what?
That's from, in lieu of parkland fees that we collected over the years.
So when you collect parkland fees, you put it here?
No, we.
No, Brent, what she's saying is, when we're paying down this Salesian bond,
I understand that.
It's put in a separate.
out of the parkland fee.
Okay.
Right, it's put into like a bank account, if you will, and held there until it's then transferred into here to use.
Okay. On page 3 of the general, the contingent, $100,000. We have an explanation of the $100,000 on that contingent line?
Do you want to answer?
1994?
No, it's, 1990, 4,000.
Point four.
Yeah. 100,000.
Well, every year, Michael, our accountant, advises us. Obviously, the concern always is, everybody has a concern on both sides. You don't want to put too much into it, and you don't want to not have enough. And obviously, we never know whether it's the tax or CRAs or whatever the other, there are certain variables that we can't account for. And we need to have some kind of money in there to cover for that. And he generally advises us to keep it as low as possible, and still to provide for unforeseen circumstances.
Okay. On the line 3120.4571, the police painting and roof.
4571.
You had $21,000, I think, in there, $20,000 in there for last year, and you got $17,000 in there for this year. So now, did they do the roof painting last year?
Let me explain to you what it is. There actually really needs to be, it's not related to painting in the roof.
What?
There needs to be a new line item added for a better explanation. We've run out of storage space in the police building.
Yeah.
So we need to add some more storage there, and we have plans drawn, and we're getting some bids on how to reconfigure some things over there, so we have more storage for evidence and files that we need to keep for. I wish the chief were here. He'll be here in a little while. I can tell you how long we have to keep these files, but it's an awfully long time. So it's not roofing. There really needs to be a new descriptor added here.
So that identification then is not accurate?
I would say that's correct, unfortunately.
Okay.
There needs to be a new descriptor added, right?
Okay. you covered the sleeving. In the water and the sewer department, you have a line item in there for the water administrator. It's 8310.4020, $87,000.